Hey, I told you previously about that new state law in California, which gets rid of the ability to use a personal or religious exemption for vaccination for families that don't want their kids to be vaccinated, but want them to go to public schools. The new law, which was signed into law by Democratic Governor Jerry Brown, says that students entering the two checkpoint years, so they check for this in kindergarten and seventh grade, you have to show proof of vaccination, okay? And if you transfer into the school system at, say, second grade, you also have to show proof of vaccination at that time. School started a few days ago in California, in some parts of California, and a whole bunch of Sacramento students were sent home because they showed up for kindergarten and seventh grade with no proof of vaccination. In the Folsom Cordova Unified School District, out of 3,200 students starting kindergarten, 145 were sent home. Sorry, that's kindergarten and seventh grade, both of the checkpoint years. 145 were sent home because they didn't have immunization records. Of the 145 sent home on the first day of school, 47 got their paperwork or got their vaccinations in order within the next 3 days. 98 were still out 3 days later. And this always gets us back to the sort of the same talking points, which is vaccinations have actually been required in California schools going all the way back to 1962. Nothing has changed as far as that goes. What's changed is you can no longer say, my religion makes it so I don't want vaccines, thus my kid needs to go to the school anyway, even though they're not vaccinated. The difference now is you can't get an exemption for religious reasons, which makes sense if we're talking about a public health scenario. And number two, there's the argument that the government is mandating people get vaccines. No, they're not. They're just saying, if you want to send your kids to public schools, you need to have the vaccines. And part of this is not lack of vaccination. Part of it is lack of access to the records. We don't have a nationalized electronic medical records system. So if you move after first grade and you go into second grade somewhere else, you might not have those records. So part of this is logistical. It's not that a lot of these kids are unvaccinated. A lot simply don't have the records. I don't buy for a second that the government is mandating vaccinations. They're just saying, we set up schools, we set up rules for those schools, and here is what they are if you choose to send your kids to these schools. That's it.
Yeah. And if the government were to mandate vaccinations, I take it we'd both be against it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it strikes me as
unless it gets to a point where the entire country is facing a huge crisis because of lack of that. But I mean, we're nowhere near that.
I've not taken a position writ large about forced vaccination. I mean, generally speaking, I'm against forced medical procedures. That's my instinct, right? And the way it's being looked at, which is, okay, most kids go to public school. These are the rules for public school. If you want to set up an institution and the kids aren't vaccinated, that's sort of up to you. Would my view change if unvaccinated children became so prevalent that they were regularly causing even more outbreaks than we've already seen them cause? I don't know. I don't want to take an emotional position on it, and I really want to think it through more. I'd be interested in hearing from people who are both for and or against mandatory vaccinations, period, which is not what is happening in California.